Ryan is cute. The psycho
Holy smokes. How is that? I want to tell Jacob that I'm always watching. So don't dance like no one is watching. Dance like at least one person is watching, because it'll be me. Creepy. Hey everyone, this is Troy, and I'm speaking in such a way that I hope you may be able to hear you. Awesome. Sean Duggan says, voice be Troy. I love it. AJ Reels here. Alex Brown says, hearable. You know, that is the most we can expect, that we are hearable.
Sometimes it is.
You know, and so no Crystal Fraser today. Crystal is off saving the world. She had a mission, so she's doing that. But we have a friend who is subbing in, and we have, of course, Steve Kenson. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Troy. How's it going?
It's going good today. I know it was funny. You snuck in a little early. So Troy might have been singing some songs that I don't know. I hope that I was singing the clean version of them, but I hope you enjoyed that. And we have Steve is slightly robotic, you say.
My robotic nature is showing.
It is as per. Let's tell me what. How about that, Steve? Would you say?
Effect of Steve Stein with the robot virus.
How about that? Must it actually say something?
Steve sounds like a cyborg. We're gonna wait just a minute while we catch up to the stream.
All right. Well, Matt.
Steve, say hello.
Hello, Steve.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest host for the day?
Yes.
With words from your mouth. But we love robots. That's okay. Steve, can you hear? Yeah, just say something wise and amazing on both Steve and Alex. Thank you, folks. We are gonna fix that.
Oh, I hope it's not my fault.
No, I don't think it is your fault.
No,
Plot
we'll
twist.
things to blame you for, Alex.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
good.
How's that, folks? Give me a yay or a nay. Now you can't hear Steve.
You can't hear me?
All right. Can Steve hear? Yeah, Steve can hear
I
me.
can hear.
Yeah. Alex sounds better. Okay, let's do this. Steve, introduce yourself and who you are and what you do on this planet.
Hi, I'm Steve Kenson. I am staff designer with Green Running Publishing, the designer of Mutants and Masterminds, and therefore a regular person on this stream so that we can talk about Mutants and Masterminds. Oh, now they have an echo on me. Now I'm echoing.
You know, best laid plans.
Echo.
All right. Do me a favor. Introduce our friend while I muck around with the robotiness.
And with me in the absence of the fabulous Crystal Fraser is friend of the show and Green Running freelancer extraordinaire, Alex Thomas. Hi, Alex.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on again. I'm so excited to fill in for Crystal when she's away saving the world.
Right? Somebody's got to.
Yeah, world needs a lot of saving these days.
Yeah, that's for sure. Crystal's very busy.
So today we've got something that I actually think I'm quite excited about it. Yeah, a bit of an echo. We'll keep working on that echo. Thank you for hanging on and chilling with us while we figure that stuff out. But it's the big. They came from outer space. It's an aliens show.
Right. So I mean, a spooky echo is kind of appropriate. If we're talking about outer space and aliens and all of that.
Phenomenal,
Sure.
phenomenal. Now, when I approached Alex about this, and I said, "Hey, are you available? Can you pop in and join the show?" And I kind of gave him the topic, and he was like, "Yes, I love that," and was really excited about it. And we have been planning this for some time. Actually, what is interesting is, Steve, back me up on this. We actually have a plan.
We do, believe it or not. Which is a relatively new concept for us, so we're still getting used to it, but we do actually have a plan.
Yeah,
So-
we've actually looked into the future, and we have scheduled some stuff, and this is a result of some of that scheduling, and I'm actually going to work on scheduling some of these topics into the future, so we'll see them across both Facebook, YouTube. And yeah, it'll be nice. It'll be really, really nice. Okay, I'll work on that, Echo. Thank you so much, Stephen. Okay, Stephen Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Alexander Thomas. Well, so with that being said, Steve, lead us through a bit of the opener for this, and sort of maybe what we're going to look at, and then I know Alex you may have brought some stuff. You may have done some homework, and so I'll let you and Steve sort of talk a bit about that while I work on your echo.
So we talked about the idea. I think we originally talked about the anniversary of the Aliens franchise as sort of the inspiration for talking about aliens, because I want to say it's next month that is the big 40th anniversary of the premiere of Aliens. Or of Alien, the original movie, I should say. And so we were going to talk about, aliens as sort of a general subject matter, not necessarily xenomorphs specifically, but, we'll talk about those too, as far as that goes. And obviously, aliens and outer space are a big mainstay of the comic book superhero genre. Ever since superheroes started, Superman was rocketed to Earth from a distant planet. And basically there have been aliens involved with superheroes in one form or another ever since. In the Silver Age, especially, when comics were taking a lot of cues from pulp science fiction and the like at the time. In fact, had a lot of crossover with a lot of pulp sci-fi authors. There was a lot of science fiction involved in comic books, and a lot of aliens and outer space adventures and the like. And you even had, folks, like Thor, who is a mythological character who spent a lot of time out in space, with dealing with aliens in one fashion or another. So, I think that Aaron Alston said when he was talking about all the various things to ask yourself when you're planning a superhero campaign, are there aliens? And if the answer is no, you're denying yourself an awful lot of storylines as far as that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the best tropes in comic books are alien related. Even if it's just like, I'm a superhero because I'm a regular member of my species, but my species just has so many more amazing abilities than a baseline human being does. So people like Martian Manhunter or
Right.
any of the Kryptonians.
Right. Pretty much the entire Legion of Superheroes.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Most of whom are made up of, everybody in my planet can do this.
Which, like, why don't we just send that planet to go solve all the problems on Earth?
Right?
Jonesy says Aliens Among Us. Give us a high sign on the Echo. I've been playing around with it, but I'm also a little dubious as to the fix. But
oh, the audio is apparently sounding better, it seems like.
Hey, we like 5x5.
5x5 is good. Thank you, Jordan.
That's good, right?
Yeah, we've got 25 audio.
In the pipe, 5x5. I like it. Sounds good, says Kent. Good deal. So we've got a full house today. We've got people who are hanging out on the YouTubes and people who are hanging out on Facebook. I do want to say this. This is your mission today, heroes. Get to our YouTube page, subscribe, and drop some thumbs up. Like,
it'll make Troy very happy.
Thumb it right up. Let's just thumb it right up there. David Body says the Invincible comic, aren't the main characters aliens with standard powers for their race? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, the Viltrumites and a bunch of the other aliens in that universe.
I love it. Alex Brown, keeping up the suspense for a big payoff is great. I'm sure you're talking about the audio payoff.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Good deal. Well, so now I can friggin' relax and say, this is so exciting. Now, a question for you two. As people who are frequently running games and creating sort of these alien characters, or alien sort of conflicts and sort of managing this with players, how crunchy do you get with all of this stuff? Like when you're...
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say it depends on the alien, and it depends on the storyline as far as that goes. Some require more mechanical effort or crunch than others. I mean, the great thing in comic book stuff is aliens, generally speaking, are just either weird-looking people with powers or monsters of one kind or another. For the most part, it's not really a lot of like science fiction-y aliens. You're not going to get into too much of sort of Strange New Worlds type stuff of we have to contact and understand this weird alien life form kind of thing for the most part. So generally the mechanics are just the same as you would be doing with any weird supervillain or monster or the like, whatever the current challenge of the week is.
Yeah, unless your game is all about like traveling through the stars and solving problems on a whole bunch of different planets, like you can be sort of hand wavy, I feel, with this person could do this because they're an alien, because there's a lot of that in the comics.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, mechanically, it's really about, like everything in Mutants and Masterminds, it's about what do you want the alien to do, so far as that goes. Like in the recent To the Moon adventure, there's basically a giant alien blob that the characters end up fighting. That's basically sort of an out-of-control alien nano-construction machine that gets, activated. Mechanically, it was basically about how to build it to make it an interesting fight for a group of characters. So a lot of it is about building it so it's different, like tentacles and pseudopods are essentially treated as minions or little individual challenges, so that the giant blob can take lots of actions on its turn, can do a lot of things to challenge a whole group of characters. Otherwise, you get a really weirdly lopsided fight with a group of heroes each taking their action, and then the giant alien monster does one thing, and then it's back to the heroes doing all of those things again.
Tries to pick which one of the heroes that's office spacing it to focus its attack on for the next round.
Exactly. So you want to take that into account when you're mechanically designing the encounter to just make things interesting from a gameplay perspective as far as that goes. But that applies whether you're building an alien or not.
It's interesting. Jordan Taylor brings up, says they ran a race of hive-minded space bugs and that they didn't have to get too crunchy. Now, I had dropped a quick poll in there saying, hey, how crunchy do you want us to get? Because I know we've got our kind of hardcore nerdery. Those folks really want us to dive in, and then the question of how crunchy do you have to get? And I think that Mutants and Masterminds lends itself well to a sort of a level of difficulty that you can make it as difficult as you wish, as tough as you want it to be, as crunchy as you want it to be. And I like what Alex Brown said. Yeah, it depends on what you want to achieve, since some concepts are harder to pull off than others, requiring more crunch. And crunchiness, I believe, should always be set to match with the PCs or the player character's crunch. Yeah?
Generally speaking.
Yeah. Now I'm hungry.
I mean, we regularly say, one of the great game mastering secrets of Mutants and Masterminds is that you have an unlimited point budget. So you can give your aliens whatever capabilities you want them to have and not worry about how many points that it costs, or, if it's an ability that you would never, ever in a million years allow the player characters to have. As far as that goes. So there's a little bit more wiggle room in terms of, designing, mechanical aspects of alien races. If you want a hive mind alien race that's all in constant telepathic contact, you don't necessarily have to figure out what the point cost is for every member of the race to be in telepathic contact with every other member of the race. As far as that goes, you can just say, they have mental communication, and you're done.
I love it.
The player characters probably aren't going to look at your builds for your supervillains. At least I hope not, because a lot of my builds are just a piece of paper on the side of the thing. It's like power level 8, dodge 8, toughness 8, plus 8 to hit, 8 damage.
Done and done. 8 is great.
Yep.
Okay, well, so shall we pick a being, an entity, an alien?
Sure.
Go for it.
I mean, we can talk about different, sort of archetypal aliens as far as that goes. We already talked a little bit about the, sort of giant alien blob, concept as a monster, as a bad guy. There are tons of other kinds of aliens. When we're talking about the Earth Prime setting, we've got our shape-shifting aliens in form of the Gru, who are a classic alien threat. And the Gru, for the most part, are largely intended to be, sort of creepy paranoia inducing aliens. They're very, invasion of the body snatchers, and you never know who you can trust type of scenario if somebody is a Gru infiltrator or the like. And we've seen that in a lot of different scenarios. So far as that goes, I was pretty good in one of my superhero campaigns of making my players extremely paranoid with shapeshifters, because there would always turn up to be these instances of, when they least expected it, somebody would turn out to be, oh, this NPC was a shapeshifter all along.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, I don't want to alarm you both, but Crystal Frazier's in the chat right now.
Hi, Crystal.
And she says,
Crystal,
do spider aliens.
coming to us from what remote location?
Our remote hideout, no doubt, deep undercover.
Well, I mean, Crystal says we do spider aliens. We have to do spider aliens.
I kind of agree. I'll also say, Pook said, let's hear about the Gru. At the same time, you mentioned Gru, so there's something there. And then I like Alex.
Connection.
Yeah, Alex Brown says, you've got your Gray Boys, you got your Eldritch Boys, your shape-shifting boys inspired by the Red Scare. Boy, we've got all kinds of boys here. Somebody says, Jonesy says, I would love to know which M&M aliens you would love to do more with. And Scott Alford made it. Scott, welcome. Good to see you, my friend. And with that, I mean, I think our course is feeling pretty plotted, but go for it.
Yeah. Well, to take questions in reverse order, we had originally planned on doing more with the whole Stellar Imperium and all of that sort of fallout from the initial Emerald City Knights adventures. The ends, slight spoiler warning for the end of that campaign. It foreshadows further events with the destruction of the throne world of the lore republic. And we had planned on playing around with more of that sort of fallout of that in the setting, but for various reasons, the follow-up adventure series that we planned to do just didn't work out in terms of scheduling, production, and a number of other things, and so it ended up getting shelved, and we refocused on some other things, and so a lot of the background material that ended up staying mainly in the background, and you'll see some of the things like Starhaven and Star Island and Freedom City, and a lot of that sort of gets updated in Freedom City to talk about the ultimate sort of fallout of that, and establishes a bit more of a new status quo. But it would definitely be interesting to play around with some of that further as far as it goes. It's really we intended to create a really sort of ripe setting for a Guardians of the Galaxy style campaign if folks were interested in doing something like that, because now you have big evil space empires to deal with, and lots of chaotic border colonies and things like that.
Yeah, that really, I don't know, something about Starhaven and Star Island and that whole situation really captures my imagination whenever I'm working with Freedom City too. That's why I picked Starhaven for the adventure we did a couple weeks ago.
Right? Yeah, no, it's a really interesting place, I think.
Yeah, and it's an interesting dynamic. I mean, there's a lot of times in the comics, like when Superman brought Kandor to Earth and resized it up, and they had to deal with the refugee Kryptonians and all of that power dynamic that then happens. I think I think it's really interesting looking at aliens in that sort of immigrant story with Earth and our relationship with that. But I mean, that's just Superman's story in a nutshell, I suppose.
Yeah, we really wanted when we were talking about doing Star Island, wanted to introduce exactly that sort of both the immigrant refugee analogy, and the fact that the Earth Prime setting didn't really have a persecuted class of superhumans per se. We didn't have Marvel style mutants in the setting or the like, and we thought that aliens would be an interesting sort of class of characters to look at in that regard, especially when it became clear that there were real aliens among us, and that a lot of the sort of latent history in the setting of things like the Gru, obviously had existed for quite some time, and those sorts of things, even little bits of some of the changeling founders from Deep Space Nine, and the kind of just sort of paranoia that they are capable of sowing in a culture was something that would be interesting to play around with.
So real quick, Apuk shares that he would like to hear about the preservers and some thought-provoking ways to use them. And then Scott Alford says, is there a rival or an arch nemesis of the preservers? And if so, where could we find them? What are they talking about? I'm not familiar.
So the preservers are our precursor alien race. They originally showed up in Earth Prime's history mainly as a plot hook. They were the mysterious super advanced aliens who mucked around with things in the universe, including interfering with Earth's biology and evolution, and for whatever mysterious reasons they had for doing that, and that basically they were all long gone by the time the present rolled around, and they were initially introduced to just be that weird, mysterious background element that they provide a great excuse for alternate evolution, and they provided a great excuse for weird, mysterious, giant alien artifacts that were hanging around. The running. I mean, the running joke is basically if a a giant mysterious thing is out there in the universe, the preservers did it. And because they were so mysterious and so alien, we basically never had to explain why. Because who knows?
It's beyond our comprehension.
Right, that's beyond our comprehension. And basically, as the setting continued and evolved, we would touch more and more upon there'd be more and more preserver created things, and we definitely hit upon that in the setup for Emerald City, which has features a preserver created thing as part of its overall plot. And we intended to do a little bit more with the notion of the preservers, at least, but we always intended to keep their ultimate sort of fate basically a mystery. The idea was to leave it up to the individual game masters to decide whether or not the preservers were still around. Had they just left the universe for another plane of existence? Had they all died out? Who knows? And it was pretty much left for the GM to decide, as far as that goes, what was actually going on. We wanted to leave the door open for some options, and not pen people into too much of a, yes, this is exactly what happened, so far as the preservers go. So yeah, I mean, they were kind of deliberately kept vague. We don't know if the preservers had an enemy or a rival, or if I have played around with plot lines of the notions of like the Owens in the DC universe. Maybe the preservers split into rival factions or divergent evolutions of their own.
Did you say the Owens?
The Guardians of the Universe, the folks who started the Green Lantern Corps.
Gotcha. Because I was going to say a force of Owens. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, no, I mean, Casey Stevens Owens, if they were like a race, they would be just too creative for us to see.
Exactly. You would never be able to flap them. They would be unflappable,
right, exactly.
Much like
They'd
the real.
All unflappable.
I love it. So interesting. Looks like we've got... so preservers are the Eternals, then. Is that a one-to-one kind of...
No, but the preservers are more like the Celestials in many ways, the beings that created the Eternals.
Love it. This is Scott Upward says a force of Owens versus a force of Shawns. I'm not sure if those universes have jumped. I think that the Shawns, to me, appear to be focused in the Mutants and Masterminds canon.
Yeah, I don't know if the Shawns constitute a force just yet.
No, yeah. I think that they're definitely working on it. I mean, every time I see another
Parliament of Shawns.
Yeah,
right.
Yes, exactly. I love it. Let's see here. Alex Brown talking about his. I like this. This is really clever. Alex Brown says that. They created a race of aliens who were basically a bunch of small bugs who were real prone to anger and worked in a sort of hive mind, except each bug had a different hat. Wait, that's not right.
Literal or metaphorical?
A dance move. Each one had a separate... No, that's not it either. A different personality, he clarifies, like a shard, and they were big on killing for incompetence, as they all retained their memories when they died, and personality was reborn at death. Okay, well I love that. That's a clever kind of, especially if you define what incompetence is, and I'm so glad they're not part of the stream, because I would have been reborn many times over. Okay, here's Jordan Taylor asks, okay, have you thought about doing a book of alien creatures?
The notion has been, not a book of alien creatures, the notion has been knocked around about doing more aliens, but generally it usually ends up we do alien characters. So, in like books like Rogues Gallery, you'll find, decent handful of alien characters as far as that goes, and we kind of talk about where they came from tangentially, but it's usually less interesting unless you're dealing with either an invasion or a game that's set out in space where you're going to be running into a lot of aliens. It's usually not all that interesting to describe entire species of aliens because they're not all that useful to a GM.
I want to thank
It's all
Alex.
about the role. It's all about the role of the alien species in your story. Where, like, if you're going to run into one alien who's super tough, you really only need to know about that one alien. Maybe have a couple of words left behind for the GM to extrapolate if they decide to go to that alien's planet.
I want to thank Alex for sharing pronouns and they, them, it is, and I do appreciate that. They also share the incompetence is just like, did you fail to eat your sandwich incorrectly? You know, like, or did you fail to do it incorrectly? I think that's sort of like, did you do it well? Or, you know, maybe that in itself, it's just too confusing. So you get, you know, incompetence and away you go. I'm looking here as well. Yeah, that is rough. Let's see. Matthew Tyler says, speaking of ideas for aliens, how about a sentient virus, i.e., interesting. Is there
we've done that.
I'm not sure how to say this word. Despotellis of the Sinestro Corps.
Yeah, we did Legion, the Mind Virus, in one of our villain source books, which was actually earthly created telepathic virus, but it could easily have been an alien, you know, if that had been your preference.
I love it.
Yeah, Pandemic from Rogues Gallery is an alien virus that took over a human host and is trying to spread itself as far as possible before the humans destroy it.
You know, I've been jumping over some of the one of the Sean's comments only because I like to bundle it all together at the end so that they don't get power throughout, and then the show's over so that they don't have it. You can't really spend their PowerPoints live. But Sean's saying regarding aliens, did we ever find out what Changeling wound up doing in the time skip? No. Take that, Sean.
We haven't talked about all of the alternatives yet. Maybe if we update them for the Patreon, we will.
Okay. I like it. Was Junk Pile an alien? Asks Jordan.
No. Junk Pile is literally an animated pile of junk. I mean, I suppose you could retcon Junk Pile's origin to say that some sort of alien is actually what is the animating force that, you know, led to Junk Pile. If you wanted to, that would be a classic comic book thing. You know, to be like, oh yeah, this giant animated junk pile that we've been fighting all these years is actually an alien of some kind. You know, you could easily do that.
I like Alex Brown. I like your style. They say, no, if you eat your sandwich too well, it can be an incompetence too, because it could be seen as trying to take over your boss instead of focusing on your goal. Well said. That's nice. You strike me as a person who may be difficult to flap, so I shall try throughout this program.
That's a challenge in that regard.
Yeah, I really do. It's one of the things that keeps me alive. Scott Alford says, is there a canonical intergalactic zombie virus a la Flood from the Flood, the whole Halo franchise, excuse me. I love it, but it just creeps me the hell out. Sequids from the Invincible, etc. So, yeah, what do we got?
Not in Earth Prime's setting that I can recall off the top of my head, but we've done a lot of stuff, so it wouldn't surprise me, but I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I can't think of one either. That's not mine.
Interesting. Crystal might have jumped off.
Again, world saving.
Absolutely, with the mission that was probably just kicking off, and so said, "Y'all are doing great. I need to run, making me proud." Oh,
we don't have like a White Martian analog in Earth Prime, do we?
Not as such. I mean, the GRU kind of take some of that role because some of the high level GRU metamorphs are pretty powerful and adaptive. You know, so the rogue GRU versus the the metamorphs that are still part of the sort of hive mind, have some of that going on. I think that Pseudo versus some of his former, you know, uh, people, play into that to a degree. Yet, as Apu points out, Xeno, has a certain element of that as well from Emerald City.
What is a pre-U? Is that a thing?
What's a what?
What's a what?
Yeah, that's what I say. A dear friend, Jordan Taylor, says, you should try my pre-U, Troy, and I'm not sure I should.
Right?
Until I know exactly what that is.
What it is.
I am most certainly open to new adventure, but sometimes things are a little too adventurous. So I'll await your definition of pre-U. Looks like Sean, one of the Seans, that would be Vieira, Sean A. Vieira, is replying to themselves, which that makes me a little nervous. So we'll see what that's about. Jordan says that's what I named the hive-minded space bugs.
Oh, well, sure.
Well, of course. I say, what a perfect name. Matthew Tyler says, on that note, how about an astonishing adventure involving an outbreak on Starhaven? Okay.
Well, I will say that inspired by Alex's adventure that we played on stream, we are thinking about doing some more with Starhaven in the near future, so far as that goes. But we're still working on exactly what that is going to look like. But we're talking about it. So
I love it.
Further, a Starhaven adventure is a definite possibility.
I did have a plan for not an outbreak, but like a poisoning of the waterhole situation on Starhaven, but the internet decided we didn't want to explore that part of the adventure on stream.
Alex Brown, I want to thank you for your contributions today, because we're kind of leaning a little bit towards some more serious, bigger threats to the world. I wonder how often, for you two as creators, as people who contribute to this kind of stuff, how often do you go funny or goofy, or sort of, I imagine, what is that one? I'm trying to think of the where they were aliens, they landed. It was sort of a riff off the 50s kind of alien. Is it Mars Attacks?
I'm talking about Mars Attacks.
Yeah, goofy and sort of fun and silly. But how often do you switch between the kind of emotional vibe of things, make it more funny and silly, or do you tend to go serious?
Alex?
I think it depends. I do. So I like to have silly things as sort of a palate cleanser between the really heavy, serious stuff. Or if it's something, or if I come up with an idea that is just like, okay, I love this idea, I want to do this. It's a silly idea, I'll lean into it. Like I had, there's a convention adventure that I run that is the Justice League interrupts Mr. Mixie's at Pitlick's Dungeons and Dragons game, and he forces them to play with them. And I switched the Justice League to their D&D versions built in Mutants Masterminds. So like Batman winds up as a halfling rogue named Bruce Padfoot, and Superman's a paladin of the sun, and it's a whole bunch of fun. It's off the walls, bonkers. But he's not playing D&D. He's playing Fire Lizards and Forgotten Lairs. That's Mix's game.
Right.
I love it. How about you, Steve? Do you tend to go?
Like Alex says, there tends to be a mix of things. I mean, comic book stuff can really turn from, the silly to, kind of deadly serious on a dime. And so much of it really depends on how you present it, how you look at it. Like on the face of it, Captain Kraken, the, space pirate who has the head of a squid, and fancies himself, like an actual, like 18th century pirate, is pretty ridiculous, on the face of him, but at the same time, I can easily envision a, Iron Age, era game, that presents Captain Kraken as initially ridiculous until you discover that he has some horrible like tendency to eat brains or something, and it goes from the ridiculous to like this horror scenario. So a lot of it depends on how you look at it, because I mean the whole thing is pretty ridiculous if you think about it any amount of time.
I love it.
It's all fun in games until he gets the cephalopods on your brain.
Right.
AJ Real says, OMG, Alexander, I want to play that game. That's pretty fun. I do as well.
It is a very fun game. The last time I ran it, I had 12 players, and that was a mistake. But it was a really fun game.
Yeah.
I love it. And I wonder, too, if you're speaking, AJ, if you're speaking specifically to what was it again? It was the D&D style game that they were playing.
Fire Lizards.
Fire Lizards and Forgotten Lairs.
It's so good. F and F. Let's see.
Matt might showed up every now and then to try and tell Bruce how to play the game, and he was not having it.
Not having it.
I love it.
It's funny because the guy playing Batman was like, Batman hates this until the very end of the adventure, and he was like, okay, now Batman wants to set up a weekly game on the Watchtower with everybody.
I love it. Here's a question. Is there an alien race that you've wanted to put in the Earth Prime setting, but they were incomplete or changed to fit another race? Asks Scott Alford.
Not that I can think of offhand. No, I don't think so. I mean, we did a lot of stuff in the Cosmic Handbook that just sort of sketches out a lot of alien races, because we're dealing with space and big empires and all of that, and you want to have more options for the GM to work with. So I mean, a lot of the races in that book are just like a paragraph or two. But the great thing about comic book aliens is that's often all you need is these. You can just be like, well, these are six-legged octopi that are breathe fluorine and fly through space, and you're pretty much good as far as a lot of that goes.
Yeah, and if Jack Kirby is anything to be based on, you can get weird, and people will love it.
Yeah.
Like aliens don't just have to be humanoid creatures like us that have specific superpowers. They could be a living sentient ball of gas that moves through the universe eating stars, or
like a disembodied,
Yeah.
You don't know what I eat for lunch.
Troy Boy.
Actually, one of the surprising things I now that I think about it, I'm not sure we've ever done space whales of some kind. And you pretty much have to at some point or another, if you do an outer space anything, you're pretty much required to do space whales at some point.
Well,
I want to see Captain Kraken's cousin, Captain Ahab, chasing down
who's like hunting the great white space whale.
Whale, I say, as I also add that there is, let me track it down real quick. I think you're getting some business from one Jonesy in the chat who says the GM who has us in the middle of a terminus. Very specifically, I think maybe calling into question the comedy part of the...
There are some adventures that are fun, and there are some adventures that make you cry. And
the
GM gets to decide which is which.
That's true. And it is all relative, right? Because what might make you laugh is what makes them cry. So, absolutely. Let's see. Oh, Nicole Lindroos giving me the business about me not eating lunch. Michael Mendoza, whale songs are the most beautiful in the original Klingon.
True.
I really want to hear that. It seems like let's not forget kaiju as well, as the kaiju from the Pacific Rim were aliens. I just learned what kaiju meant very specifically last stream. I was like, what's a kaiju? Or maybe it was the one before that, because I thought it was kudzu, but that's two very different things.
No, two different giant monsters there.
Well, so how do you manage the epic nature of kaiju and the, when it comes to scale and that kind of stuff? I mean, do you stat up like parts of the body, or is it, how do you do that?
Well, that's one option, like you said. We talked about that a little earlier with the giant, alien blob concept. That you can treat, the kaiju as sort of a collection of, creatures in a way that the characters have to overcome. Sometimes giant monsters are better treated as, like natural disasters rather
A skill
than
challenge.
right as a challenge rather than a creature per se, because you don't necessarily want the group just like one-shotting your giant monster because it rolled a terrible, toughness check.
And I think that depends on the scale of your heroes too, because
Mhm.
Spider-Man is going to have a much harder time with Godzilla than Superman.
Right. It's
Right.
true.
And it depends on what you want that monster to serve story-wise in the role. Like, is this the big final confrontation that's everything's been building up to? Is that the cult summoned this big horrible kaiju to Earth, and now it's the time for the heroes to have their big epic battle? Or is this your opening sting, where you're just sort of having the Justice League show up on an alien planet and say, "Hey, deal with this monster as an introduction to the rules and how fighting works, and then we'll get into the real meat and potatoes of the story." So it just depends.
I love it. I want to thank some folks who are tuning in just now and checking out our stream. We're talking. They came from outer space. It's aliens. It's aliens and how to incorporate them, and thoughts from people who are watching the stream. Do say hello when you drop in. Give us a little wave and ask a question if you like. I'm looking at this. Let's see. Oh, Scott Alford says all those who have accidentally 1v1 to kaiju. Yeah, that seems like a challenge for sure. I can't stop thinking of the space whales. I really.
They're enchanting.
They are enchanting. I want to go to there, or I want them to come to here. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they could be malicious with,
Right.
could liquefy our entire society
That would
with their
actually be
whales.
an interesting twist, because the space whales were almost never malicious.
Right.
They're always kind and sweet and charming, and usually threatened by the real malicious aliens.
Yeah, it's the space barnacles you got to watch out for.
Oh yeah, right. Itchy. Stan Brown says flyweight. Is that a thing we're familiar with? The kaiju with the glass jaw.
I think that Stan made that up, but
Stan, I see. That's a creation from you, Stan. I like it. I do enjoy that. All right. So, looking at what I'm looking at the time, it's 2:50. What the heck?
yeah, time flies.
Time flies when you're having fun. There are a couple things that I want to be sure. So, speaking of aliens and alien opportunities, I really like that sort of weird sort of euphemism for something unpleasant. Talk to me about, or share sort of looking to the future. What are some creative, interesting ways? I mean, the both of you are deluxe storytellers. You are pros. You've been doing this for some time. And putting you on the spot is something that I truly enjoy. We call it Get Flapped. It's one of our regular things that we do on this program and others that you may hear me on. What are, let's think outside the box. Get some real creative sort of alien mischief making and how you'd incorporate it into an adventure.
Gosh, you got a lot of options so far as that goes.
Alien mischief. That's
Right.
a very nebulous term.
But evocative, really. I mean, it suggests that you're talking about aliens who are playful in some way. So I would immediately tend to go to the notion of aliens who view Earth and humans as entertaining. So my first thought would be something along the lines of aliens who have, basically sort of tuned in to Earth, and, Earth, being usually pretty unique and having superheroes in, a cosmic setting, that aliens have basically decided that superheroes are the greatest reality show they have ever seen. And therefore, what Earth needs is more supervillains. because that's what the heroes do. So the aliens have decided that they are going to create more supervillains for the heroes to fight, so they can keep this really interesting show going.
I love it.
So the heroes all of a sudden are just like inundated with this, sudden like wave of new supervillains. And they're like, where are these guys getting all of this like super technology and like weird genetic splices and, just all kinds of like deluxe power packages and things like that, and the heroes basically start piecing it together that the mysterious supplier of all of these supervillains is basically the equivalent of an alien like Hollywood producer, who's just like, hey, no offense, but this is big ratings.
I kind of want to build on that a little bit, because I kind of want there to be a portion of these aliens who aren't in it for the action. They're in it for like the CW style drama. So they start messing with the heroes' like personal lives, like trying to create love triangle situations or trying to create evil twin situations that they see on soap operas and stuff. Just trying to
that is so
build
funny.
all that in on top of we're building supervillains for them to fight.
Absolutely. And that's when you start getting to the mix up of where the character's personal life crosses over, because of course these aliens are like voyeurs, and so they know all kinds of things about the heroes, and that's when things like the person in their personal life who they don't get along with suddenly gets superpowers.
This is so great. I love the idea too that they're collecting sort of like almost a sort of a fandom sort of Wikipedia style, like they know all the bits and pieces about people, and for some reason I keep getting stuck on the notion that they're trying to get humans, maybe on the comedy side of things, that there's a phrase that just cracks them up, that when humans say it, they like oh no, why
say it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the really terrible part is eventually when the aliens kidnap all the heroes and take them to a convention.
Yes.
I love it.
Galaxy Quest.
And what a twist, we taught them this because they've been watching us. That is so fun. I love it. This is interesting. Somebody says, if we're talking space whales, do they travel in pods? And will we get art of of a baby space whale in the future? I hear your call, Scott. I will try to draw something for you of a baby of a. Right. Something just fell here, and I don't know what. Scott, thank you for that. But then someone else asks, "Is there?" Let's see. Matthew Tyler says, as far as space whales go, you're thinking of the Void Singers, which are an Earth Prime approximation of the Akanti from the Marvel Comics. Is that true?
Could be.
Could be.
Have we done space whales?
Is that what we're talking about?
Maybe.
It's not familiar to me, but
I was going to say it doesn't ring a bell, but we've done a lot of stuff, so it wouldn't surprise me.
I love this. Is great. Sean Vieira says, check out Year Zero by Robert Reed. Aliens have been breaking U.S. copyright law due to humans being the only beings in the universe to do music. John Hodgman read the audiobook. I love John Hodgman. If you a little fun fact for you, if you go to John Hodgman, Judge John Hodgman's podcast, somebody has been on it that's on this stream. Had taken someone to court, to John's court, to the great Judge John Hodgman, and won. So that would be me.
Wow.
Let's see. For aliens seeding Earth with powers, I also enjoyed Irrational Games' Freedom Force, using that to try and weaken Earth. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, aliens being the source of superpowers is a real common trope in one form or another.
Sean Duggan said, and I'm glad we bring this up. Sean says, I really wish, some days I really wish we kept up on the wiki for Freedom City's setting. I want to tell you, I have been playing around. I've been playing around over on, it is the fandom Mutants and Masterminds wiki. Meet me over there and let's do some updating. Let's share some stuff. They've got a nice a growing sort of thing there, and it might need a little an injection of some love, and we'll share a link there. But absolutely, and Calvin B says, I was imagining aliens voting on their favorite supervillains, American Idol style, with the charismatic host.
Right?
I love it. Sean Duggan admits that was an unofficial. Yeah, let's collaborate on that. I would love to have the Seans sort of focused using their powers for good instead of reminding everybody what I've forgotten.
I'm imagining the heroes having to protect villains that have been voted off the island by the alien audience.
Right.
Like they just try to vaporize any villain that doesn't please them anymore, so the heroes have to take them into hiding.
Mm-hmm.
And reveal to the supervillain that they weren't supervillains at all. It's all part of social engineering by the aliens, and maybe they could be heroes instead.
We can be heroes. I love it. All right, so listen, we got just a few minutes left. Before we go, I want to make sure everybody checks out our Patreon. We've got a lot of stuff cooking. Mm-hmm. That is patreon.com /mutants and masterminds, and wow, we unveiled a bunch of stuff. I will admit to this, my apologies, I did not get the vote out. We will get the vote out for, I know, right? I'm just awful. But we've got that. I'll throw the vote up there today. We'll get some plans. We're doing ranked choice voting, and that's what kind of threw me for a bit of a loop. But ranked choice voting for the next selections, and a ton of other things that are cooking there. You folks will no doubt have seen that if you go over and check that out. And thank you, Jonesy, for sharing a link to that. You are a link wizard deluxe.
I mean, a lot of the things we've been talking about as possibilities here on the stream are basically going to probably appear first on the Patreon in one form or another.
And a lot of the things we talk about may come from conversations that happen, on just like this circle of life. And AJ brings up a really great thing, Patreon merch. Mm-hmm. It's happening. We're doing it. I think we've settled on Mutants and Master mugs and some and some other things as well. We're picking those pieces of art that we will run by everybody so you can see them. And in the remaining 30 seconds that we have, Steve, Alex, tell us about, Alex, we'll start with you as our guest. Tell us a bit about what you got cooking. I think you have some exciting stuff happening. It seems like kind of a punishing scenario on the offing for this evening. Yeah,
so over at the Untold Stories Project, which is my live play for all kinds of role-playing games, but we play Mutants Masterminds on Monday. We're going to be in the Terminus tonight, facing Tarvon the Undying, powered up by Una, Queen of the Netherworld's magic. So, sort of bad news for everybody involved. What else do I have? What else do I have going on? I have a couple of books coming out in July and August. Fingers crossed. A couple more Titan City novels are coming out. So that's my Golden Age superhero stuff. Yeah. That's sort of the two big things I've got going on right now.
So head over to Twitch TV, Untold Stories Project, and do a search for that. We've got a link in the chat as well, so you can check that out. Monfrere Kenson, what have you got cooking? You've got a world of things happening.
So let's see. We've got next week is the release of my astonishing adventure, Green Thumb, Black Heart.
Heck yeah!
We're going to be talking about here on the stream. And that is a Green Man adventure, so should be a lot of fun. And on my Patreon, patreon.com/Steve Kenson, I'm currently working on a outer space related superhero thing. On a group called the Gemstar Guardians, who are bedazzled protectors of all that is good in space.
That sounds really outrageous.
And should be a lot of fun. I'm working on that for a release early next month. So that's coming along. And I think that's the main stuff that I can talk about right now anyway.
So much we can't talk about, and so much more time it would take, and we have none. We've run out of time. I do want to end with this saying, if you head over to and you watch today, and the time again for the Untold Stories Project, the next chapter.
We'll start in about an hour from now.
About an hour from now, and I hear tell that Jonesy says if you give us a follow, you can, as somebody who's following, grant a PowerPoint. Is that true?
Hero points.
A hero point.
0 points.
Hero point, Jonesy. And that is awesome. Stay tuned for more stuff. I want to thank everybody for checking out Mutants and Masterminds Monday, of course, coming to you every Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific. Alexander Thomas, thank you again for coming by and hosting Crystal's Out Saving the World. It is a true honor and a pleasure. For everybody else watching, make sure you check us out this Thursday for Thursdays with Owen Casey Stevens. We've got a lot to talk about, so you can check us out this coming Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific. With that, I say to you and to all of you, adieu, and thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.